In addition to her loyalty to FEU, she also serves as an FEU Learning Journey Mentor. Now, without further ado, everyone, let's welcome Ms. Roslyn S. Rabanera Bocato.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to our webinar. So, to continue on, to move on, I will be introducing the members of the panelists for this afternoon's webinar. Our first panelist is a nurse and a lawyer. She has been in the government service for more than 3 decades and is currently a commissioner of the Commission on Human Rights of the Philippines, a loud and proud FEU alumna from the Institute of Nursing and one of the recipients of the 2018 Green and Gold Outstanding Alumni Award, we have Commissioner Leia Tanodra Armamento. Our next panelist needs no further introduction, considering his track record as one of the most sought-after lawyers, broadcaster, and a professor. Far Eastern University's beloved dean from the Institute of Law, Attorney Melencio Santamaria. And our third panelist specializes in international relations, Southeast Asian studies, and terrorism studies, and one of the lecturers of FEU Institute of Arts and Sciences, International Studies, and Political Science Department. We have Professor Kebart Likayan. So to start off, may I now call on Commissioner Leia Tanodra Armamento for her presentation.
Thank you very much, Rose. Can we go to the next slide? Next slide, please. Good afternoon, everyone. I will start my presentation in a context. Can we go to the next slide? The Constitution is the direct expression of our sovereign will as a people expressed in a referendum. Thus, after the 1987 Philippine Constitution was drafted, this was submitted to us to vote yes if we agree or no if we disagree with its provisions. The Constitution is the social contract that we Filipinos as a sovereign allowed certain individuals who we directly elected to govern us under the rule of law. In this contract, we agreed to surrender certain rights and privileges to these individuals, whom we collectively call government, for them to run the affairs of our country, the Philippines, so that we all live in harmony under the rule of law, which the government may enact and administer for the citizen of the Philippines and all persons in the country. In return, we pay their salaries and underwrite the expenses of governance through our taxes. To protect ourselves from the abuse of powers that we as a people bestowed to our government, we reserve certain rights which are non-negotiable and shall be followed to the letter by our agent, the government, at all times. This is encapsulated in Article 3 of our Constitution and known as Bill of Rights. We expressly demand that this be strictly followed. Thus, any law or issuance should not transgress the Bill of Rights enshrined in our Constitution. Instead, all laws should protect, promote, and fulfill our rights as a sovereign, who is the source of all powers. Now, allow me to walk you through the provisions of the proposed Anti-Terrorism Act of 2019. Section 4, which enumerates terrorist acts, should be read with sections 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, and 12. This enumeration of terrorist acts are not precise, leaving it to the subjective appreciation and interpretation of the law enforcers, thus violates provisions of the Bill of Rights, Section 1 and 14 on the right to due process and the right to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation against him. Next slide, please. Sections 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 21 on surveillance of suspects and interception and recording of communications violates the provisions of the Bill of Rights, specifically Section 2, the right of the people to be secure against unreasonable searches and seizure. Section 3, the privacy of communication and correspondence, and Section 17, the right against self-incrimination. Next slide, please. Okay, thank you. Section 24, proscription of terrorist organization, association, or group of persons. Section 25, preliminary order of prescription. The purpose of the petition for proscription is done to designate a group as a terrorist. Under Section 25, which is a preliminary order of prescription, this can be done ex parte without notice to the respondents, and the court will designate a group as terrorist within 72 hours. This violates the provisions of the Bill of Rights, specifically Section 1 on the right to due process, Section 4 on the right to peaceably assemble, and Section 8 on the right to association. Next slide, please. Section 27 is detention without judicial warrant. On a mere written authority from the Anti-Terrorism Council, without any opportunity to be heard on the part of the suspect, a person can be detained for a total of 24 days without any liability on the part of the arresting officer. This violates provisions of Bill of Rights of the Constitution's, specifically Section 1 on the privation of liberty without due process, Section 2, warrant of arrest issued by a judge after the examination of the witnesses, Section 12, the right of the person under investigation, Section 13, the right to bail, and Section 14, no person shall be held to answer for a criminal offense without due process of law. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay. On Section 31, which is the restriction on the right to travel, it provides that if the evidence is not strong, you can be put under house arrest without benefit of use of phone, internet, or other means of communication, or your movement may be limited within the city or municipality of your residence. This violates the provisions of the Bill of Rights, specifically Sections 1 on the privation of liberty without due process of law, and Section 6 on the right to abode and travel. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. Section 32 provides for bank inquiry and examination in relation to Section 39, functions of the Anti-Terrorism Council. The number 6 of Section 39 provides for the freezing and forfeiture of the funds of the suspect without going through court hearing. This violates the Bill of Rights provisions, specifically Section 1 on the privation of property without due process of law, Section 2, unreasonable search and seizure. Next slide, please. Thank you. Section 41, ban on extraordinary rendition. This provision is misleading. On the contrary, it allows a suspect to be sent to another country and provides for the procedure and on how to go about it. This is very dangerous. You can be sent to another country for interrogation, like to the notorious Guantanamo Bay in Cuba, a U.S. military detention camp. This violates the Bill of Rights, specifically Sections 1 on due process. Okay, next slide. Okay. Section 43, uh, promoting peace and inclusivity in schools, learning centers, and training institutions. This provisions provides that the school may be closed, its official criminally charged if it promotes or encourages acts of violence. This may violate your freedom of expression and academic freedom. Okay, next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, now of all those provisions that I have mentioned that are unconstitutional for violation of the provisions of the Constitution in Article 3 on the Bill of Rights, allow me to walk you through its practical application. For example, your son or daughter happens to pass by Menjola area. I know you are aware of the Menjola area, which is usually the venue for demonstration, rally of different groups. It so happened when your son or daughter was there, there was a lightning rally of Kabataang Makabayan or KM, which is considered an underground movement under the National Democratic Front. Granting that the KM or Kabataang Makabayan was proscribed as a terrorist organization. Then during that rally, the rallies distributed propaganda materials and gave one to your son or to your child. The police came, dispersed them with colored water from the water cannons, which also hit your child being in the area. Based in these two evidence that are found in your child, the propaganda materials and the colored water that stain his clothes, then there is sufficient evidence to sustain probability that he is a participant in that rally. So what will happen now to your child? First, your child will be detained initially for 14 days. Then it may be extended by additional 10 days. Then because there is enough evidence to sustain probable cause, then your child may be charged for the violation of the Anti-Terrorism Act, which is non-bailable. So your child then will forever be in jail, and then his education will suffer while trial is ongoing on his case. What are other things that will happen to your child? Your child will be subjected to surveillance. So all means of communication used by your child, that includes cell phone, laptops, maybe open to examine all his communications, regardless whether it is communication with his suspected terrorist or private communications, and that may include your communication with your child. And then there will also be forfeiture or freezing of all assets of your child, which may include your own. So if you are saving money for your child and you put it in the name of the child in the bank, then it will be forfeited, even if it is not used as an instrument of the alleged Terrorism Act. and then the right to travel or movement of your child will be curtailed, even if the evidence is not strong, till the court can put your child on house arrest and all means of communication are prohibited. And then, or your child may be limited in his movement within the city or municipality that he resides. And the school where your child is enrolled may be closed, and its officials may be held criminally liable or may be charged because your child is enrolled in that school, and they may be able to prove, or as a suspect, your child is participating in a rally, and the school allows freedom of expression, debate on issues which the law enforcer may think to be treading on terrorism act. So that is an example that I can give to you if this bill becomes a law. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Armamento. Again, let me remind all of the participants, should you have any questions to any of our panelists, just write your questions in the chat box provided below. So for this part, may I call on Dean Mel for his presentation?
Thank you very much. Nakikita na ba ako? Am I on already?
Yes, Dean, you're on.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. My portion, I'd like to deal with academic freedom and the anti-terrorism law, since we are in the setting of an academic institution and I am a member of the academy. Just like Commissioner Armamento said, the Constitution protects academic freedom. And academic freedom, as we all know, talks about how to teach, what to teach, who to admit, and who will not be admitted in a school. Those are the four pillars of academic freedom. The proposed law mandates that the Anti-Terrorism Council shall have as two of its support groups the Commissioner on Higher Education and the Department of Education. You can see this on the third paragraph of Section 45. Now the question is, why are these two departments included? Why? This is a security law, and yet we see the Commission on Higher Education and the Department of Education being part of the support group. Given the enormous power granted to the Anti-Terrorism Council, and I quote, to formulate and adopt comprehensive, adequate, efficient, and effective plans, programs, or measures to prevent, counter, or eradicate the commission of terrorism in the country and to protect the people from such acts. That's your Section 25, and you could just imagine how general it is. Is there a danger that the ATC could interfere with academic freedom of higher learning by unduly using the DepEd and the CHED? I believe that it is not an impossibility. So let us go to some practical situations, as Commissioner said. No? What if law or political science professors engage their students to research, debate, defend, or debunk the propriety or the pros and cons of socialism, of Marxism, or even liberation theology, where inevitably discussions on armed struggle will be part of the subject? And then the ATC, not experts in these topics, suspects this as an indoctrination to a terroristic ideology. Will this be enough to take into custody the professors and the students for inciting to terrorism, which is one of the offenses under the law? Section 29 of the law provides that with the written authority of the ATC, any law enforcement agent or military personnel can take into custody those, and now I'm quoting, suspected of committing crimes under the proposed law. Alam naman natin ang ibig sabihin ng suspecha. Suspecha ay hinala. Hindi ibig sabihin nito napatunayan. Napakadaling ilagay sa batas. Proven to have committed the crime of, but ang niligay nila suspected. And for me, that's not even vague. It is very clear. When you have a clear threshold of arrest, juxtaposed with a vague provision of the offenses, yung tandem na yan, that's almost devastating. Okay, next. So you remember Section 29, the threshold for taking into custody, which is just an euphemism for an arrest, is suspicion. What if moral theology philosophy professors discuss St. Thomas Aquinas' bellum istum, dealing with the justification for war? Can a police arrest the professors on suspicion that bellum istum is a pretext for proposing terrorism or inciting their students to commit terrorism? Again, Section 29 making the threshold for an arrest based merely on suspicion could allow that apprehension. Tapos eto pa, and I quote, "This country with its institution belongs to the people who inhabit it. Whenever they shall grow weary of the existing government, they can exercise their constitutional right of amending it or exercise their revolutionary right to overthrow it." That quote is from Abraham Lincoln, one of the greatest United States presidents. What if a professor assigned the students to analyze that statement and the ATC and the police on mere suspicion? Remember, the threshold is suspicion. Mere suspicion pursuant to Section 29 apprehend the professor because according to them, such assignment referring to the revolution is a form of inciting to terrorism. And as Commissioner said, Section 25 of the law, ex parte, without notice, without proceeding, allows the Anti-Terrorism Council to designate you as a terrorist. And therefore, the presumption of guilt has been attached. Hindi pa nakukorte, terrorist ka na. As decided by not the court, but by an administrative agency. Okay, let's move on. Ito pa, and I quote, "A revolution woven in the dim light of mystery has kept me from you. Another revolution will return me to your arms, bring me back to life." One of the memorable quotes in El Filibusterismo, written by Jose Rizal. What if a theatrical play created, written, produced, and directed by students were shown revolving around that statement? Is it possible that those in the ATC, the Anti-Terrorism Council, and the police, again, on mere suspicion, treat, remember the threshold is suspicion, treat this is a proposal to commit terrorism and therefore apprehend students, producers, directors, and writers of the show? This is possible, considering again that the threshold is quote-unquote suspected of committing, unquote, a crime under the proposed anti-terrorism law. Can the ATC require the CHED or the Department of Education to formulate a curriculum prohibiting, tempering, or limiting the study of ideologies or advocacies which it suspects as, quote-unquote, and this is the wording of the law, creating a serious risk to public safety and therefore, quote-unquote again, endangers a person's life? How general the law could be pursuant to Section 4A of the proposed anti-terrorism law. Indeed, the grant of vast powers and the generalization of the law can easily be abused and misused. Powers which serve as a lure for any despot, and that is, which it's very hard to resist. Educational institutions, professors, and students may be subjected, sabi nga ni Commissioner, to surveillance for what law enforcement may erroneously again suspect as subversive activities. This becomes more pronounced when we consider that professors and students are not exempted from surveillance, unlike, and this is in the law, ang mga exempted, lawyers and clients, doctors and patients, journalists and their sources, and confidential business correspondents. That's your Section 19. Bakit hindi nilagay doon? Teaching, professor, and students inside the classroom. Diba? Bakit? Diba? So madaming choices na hindi inalalagay. Okay. Academic freedom will be threatened by the proposed anti-terrorism law. No doubt about it. It can serve as a sword of Damocles over learning institutions, professors, lecturers, and students. Free, unrestricted, robust, and even caustic discussions on anything that might antagonize the government can be negated by self-restraint and self-censorship by professors and students for fear of being labeled as terrorists, which may entail incarceration. Government interference not merely through statute or fiat, but via outright warrantless apprehension will always be a threat. The marketplace of ideas, which is a university, should be maybe unduly stifled, if not totally stifled. I hope we will not see the day when teachers and students will be taken into custody as terrorists merely on the basis of suspicion. And again, I emphasize, Article 29 provides that on the mere written authority of the ATC, a military personnel or a law enforcer can take into custody, quote unquote, anyone suspected of a crime. How clear it is. How clear is the law. Napakalinaw basta't pagdating sa panghuhuli eh. Suspected lang. Hindi naman tayo pwede magkamali kung anong ibig sabihin noon. Pero doon sa mga linya ng mga pwede maging terroristic act, napaka-general. Kung general at kung malinaw ang panghuhuli, at malinaw ang base, suspicion, tapos napakalabo at general naman ang ofensa, lahat na lang papasok doon at nakakatakot yan. That is what we call the chilling effect of the law. Maaring hindi pa nangyayari. Yung chilling effect of the law has already constrained you not to talk, not to teach what you want to teach, not to profess your belief, and not to express your opinion. That's prior restraint, which is anathema to a democratic system and also anathema to academic freedom. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dean Mel. Again, we encourage everyone to post their questions in the comment box below. You can just write your questions. We're pulling all of your questions, and after all of the presentations of the panelists, we will be answering each one of them, okay? So may I now call on Professor Kebart Likayan.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So today I'll be discussing the anti-terrorism bill and the alternative approaches. So disclaimer lang, hindi po ito the legalistic point of view dun sa terrorism, but rather this is more on the academic and the terrorism studies perspective. So here's my outline of my presentation. First, we will discuss yung academic versus legal definitions. And then after that, we'll talk about the definition challenges, kung ano yung mga problems sa pagde-define ng terrorism, at bakit bakit nagma-matter yung definition. And right after that, we'll talk about the strategies and approaches. Okay, let us start with the terminologies. So in terrorism studies, may tatlo po tayong terminologies na usually, or basic terminologies na dapat maintindihan. First is yung terrorism, second is yung radicalization or violent radicalization, and then the third one is violent extremism. So, ano ba yung pinagkakaiba ng tatlong yan? First, let us define yung terrorism. In the academic definition of terrorism, wala talagang single definition, but this definition that I showed in the presentation ay usually yung generally accepted definition by Schmid. So when we talk about terrorism, it refers to a doctrine about the presumed effectiveness of a special form or tactic of fear, generating coercive political violence, and on the other hand, to a conspiratorial practice of calculated, demonstrative, direct, violent actions without legal or moral restraints, targeting mainly civilians and non-combatants, performed for its propagandistic and psychological effect on various audiences and conflict parties. So notice po dyan na may four highlighted phrases at yan po yung elements na dapat titignan natin. Una ay may coercive political violence. Pangalawa ay may walang legal or moral restraints, or it talks about yung legalities ng Terrorism Act. And then pangatlo ay yung target ng act, at yung pangatlo huli ay yung effect nung act doon sa audience. So in legal definition, hindi naman masyadong nagkakalayo, but in the international, the UN resolution has set yung elements on kung ano yung terrorism. One is yung perpetration of a criminal act. So ito yung arson, beheading, kidnapping, and then pangalawa is yung intent to spread fear among the population. So ang pinagkaiba ng terrorism sa common criminal act ay itong pangalawa, yung intent to spread fear. At ginagamit yung intent to spread fear para i-coerce yung government. At yung last na element ng terrorism ay dapat may transnational element. Ibig sabihin, cross-boundary siya. But may problema din dito sa definition ng UN dun sa terrorism. It's because meron din tayong tinatawag na domestic terrorism. So doon medyo nagkakaroon ng problem. In the Philippines, currently meron dinedefine yung terrorism under the Section 3 of Human Security Act of 2007. So dyan sa screen makikita niyo po yung highlighted. May dalawang elements po dyan. Una ay yung widespread or fear among the populace, and then pangalawa is to coerce government. So medyo magkakaparehas po yung mga elements sa academic and the legal definition. Okay, next sa terrorism studies ay meron din tayong tinatawag na radicalization. Ano ba yung radicalization? In the current bill na pinopropose, same lang po yung definition, pero ang pinagkaiba lang po ay meron siyang limitation. Ito yung makikita mo dito sa right side ng screen na it shall not include yung mga civil and political activities, no? Kung babasahin mo, okay lang siya, pero as discussed earlier ni Dean Mel at ni Attorney Leia, may legal implications yan kung masyadong broad yung definition. Okay, so sa radicalization, ano naman yung radicalization or violent radicalization? Yung term na violent radicalization ay yung process ng pag-adapt ng extremist belief system. So yung purpose ng pag-adapt nito ay para i-advance yung violence at ideologically motivated yan. So either political, religious, or social change yung purpose niyan. So in the academe, wala masyadong same as terrorism, walang unified definition, pero we borrow usually yung definition ng violent radicalization dito sa set by the US Congress, no? So anong pinagkaiba ng terrorism at radicalization? Yung terrorism is the ultimate consequence of radicalization process. So ibig sabihin, kapag nasa radicalization process ka pa, hindi ibig sabihin nun na terrorist ka na. So kapag nag-pick na yung radicalized thoughts mo ay nag-manifest na into behavior, doon na magiging terrorist yung act. Ngayon, in terrorism studies recently, may umuusbong na bagong terminology at ito yung violent radicalization. So violent extremism rather. So ano yung violent extremism? So just like terrorism, wala ding unified definition sa violent extremism, but yung United Nations defined yung violent extremism as a belief or actions of people who support or use violence to achieve ideological, religious, or political goals. So anong pinagkaiba ng violent extremism sa terrorism? Yung terrorism is just one aspect of violent extremism. So violent extremism, meron din tayong ibang other forms of political violence such as civil wars or rebellion or insurgency. So kasama yan dun sa violent extremism. In the Philippines, we're trying to adopt this notion of violent extremism. We're trying to expand the definition ng terrorism at we include violent extremism. So in section 45 of the proposed bill, makikita mo dyan yung conditions or yung mga inclusion ng violent extremism. So bakit ba importante na malaman natin yung definitions? So kung mapapansin niyo po, medyo may overlapping ng mga elements on the academic and legal definitions of the terminologies. Pero nagdidepende pa rin yun sa kung ano ang i-adapt ng Estado. Ngayon, ano yung mga challenges? So may problema sa pagde-define kasi walang single universal agreed definition of terrorism. Ibig sabihin, yung state can adopt or will not adopt the international definition. So nasa sa kanila yan kung ano yung interpretation nila with the terrorism and violent extremism. Pangalawang problem is yung problem of the targets. In the academic discussion, sinabi earlier na yung target ng terrorism ay civilians at non-combatants. But in the legal definition, may nakalagay doon na coerce government. So ano ba talaga kapag may involvement ba ng mga military officers or government officials ay sakop na ba sa terrorism? Kasi yun po yung mga gray area nun. Pangalawang gray area nun is, for example, kapag inattack ba ng mga terrorists yung military officers, kailan siya masasabing terroristic act or not? Kasi kailan ba nagiging military ang isang military officers at kailan siya nagiging civilian? Pangalawang problem is yung problem of perpetrators. Usually makikita niyo po dyan sa previous definitions ng terrorism ay puro mga subnational groups or yung mga non-state actors. Pero let us remember na may tinatawag din tayong state terrorism. Government can also be guilty of terroristic acts. Why if the government ay ginagawa niya yung mga ginagawa ng subnational groups? Matatawag ba rin natin silang terrorists? And then panghuling problem sa terrorism definition ay yung problem of intention. Sa terrorism studies, may tinatawag tayong waves of terrorism. So currently, sa panahon natin ngayon, nasa fifth wave or fourth wave of terrorism tayo, which is religiously driven terrorism. So more of a religious narrative yung ginagamit natin. But during the Cold War, ang ginagamit nila is yung communism. So ngayon, matatawag pa rin ba nating terroristic act yung mga communist act? So yung mga ganong bagay. If kapag may communist ideology ka, does that mean terrorist ka na agad? Diba? So yun yung mga challenges nun. Pangalawang challenges ay dun sa term na radicalization. Sa radicalization, people usually tend to confuse yung radicalism at radicalization. And even yung mga authorities na naguguluhan sila kung ano ba yung pinagkaiba ng dalawang terminologies na to. Kapag sinabi natin radicalism, ito yung belief or yung ideology. Yung radicalization naman, ito yung process. So pag sinabing radical ka, ibig sabihin you're rejecting the mainstream belief. So either pwede kang radical left or radical right. But that does not mean na violent ka na. Hence, kapag sinabi nating radical groups, should not automatically be assumed to be socially or politically dangerous. So example ng mga radical groups ay yung mga activists. So dapat hindi natin sila i-assume na mga potentially dangerous sila. But then, ito yung problem nga kasi maraming mga kadalasan sa authorities tend to confuse yung radicalism at radicalization. Ngayon, bakit importante na ma-define natin yung definition? Marami sa mga sa atin or even the authorities ay ninineglect yung pagde-define ng isang terminologies because one ay masyadong simplistic. But importante na ma-define, ma-set yung scope and limitation ng definition kasi yung definition ng or yung label gives the state considerable power to act and use violence against a group. So pwedeng gamitin yung definition na to, yung subject to interpretation nila dun sa opponents nila. Pangalawa, kailangan din natin ma-define clearly yung definition kasi yun yung magdidikta ng counter-terrorism strategies natin. Kung mali ang definition, mali din yung counter-terrorism strategies natin. Ngayon, ano-ano ba yung mga counter-terrorism strategies na ginagamit? So, may tinatawag tayong models and approaches. So, let us first discuss kung ano yung mga models. So, may tatlo tayong models na tinatawag: disengagement, deradicalization, and counter-radicalization. Pag sinabi nating disengagement, ito yung pag-stop ng actions nila. So, kung yung terrorist, ikukulong lang natin, but once they are out dun sa prison, still gagawa pa rin sila ng mga terroristic acts. So, nire-restraint lang natin yung actions nila. Sa deradicalization naman, ito yung kabaliktaran ng radicalization. Ibig sabihin, ito yung pagre-reverse. Ibig sabihin, hindi lang yung behavior nila ang nire-restraint natin, but also we're trying to normalize their ideology. Kasi 'di ba extremist na nga yung ideology nila. So we're trying to reintegrate them to the normal society. And then the last one is yung tinatawag na counter-radicalization. Ito naman yung proactive measures, ito yung preventive measures. Ito yung mga ginagawa natin para hindi mag-lead yung isang tao na ma-recruit into terrorists. No? So, yung models na yan, nakalagay sa screen, hindi siya exclusive, mutually exclusive na okay, disengagement lang dapat or deradicalization lang dapat. So pwedeng tatlo, pwedeng dalawa, or pwedeng isa. No, depende 'yun sa kung ano yung interpretation natin ng definition. So apart from the models, may tinatawag din tayong approaches. So yung unang approach ay tinatawag nating hard approach. So in layman's term, yung hard approach, ito yung paggamit ng carrots and sticks policy. Ibig sabihin, nire-reward natin yung mga gumagawa ng kabutihan at nagkakaroon tayo ng punishments dun sa mga lumalabag dun sa batas. So ano-ano yung mga example ng hard approach? Ito yon: killings, punishments, arrests, sanctions, surveillance. So yan. The next one, the approach ay yung kabaliktaran naman ng hard, yung soft. Kung ano yung soft approach? Ito yung non-coercive approach. So ito yung long term, no? Ito yung hindi natin ginagamitan ng carrots and sticks, but ang ginagawa natin dito ay stable support network, tina-target talaga natin yung root cause ng problem. So ano-ano ba yung example ng soft approach? Una is yung good governance, yung pangalawa, engaging troubled communities, proper doctrinal religious education, at strengthening the civil, social, and psychological bond between various and ethnic and racial groups. So ito yung mga models and approaches in counterterrorism strategies. Ngayon, let us reflect sa current proposed bill na nakabinbin ngayon, no? So, ano ba yung goal ng bill natin, no? Kasi doon natin malalaman kung ano yung mga strategies na gagawin natin, kung magkakaroon ba tayo ng deradicalization, counter-radicalization, or lahat ba yan ay gagawin natin. So, yung question dito is, what is the goal, no? Is it a national security or human security? Well, kung babasahin mo yung current bill, current law natin, it's a Human Security Act of 2007, at yung proposed bill ay ganun din yung nature niya, human security. But is it human security, no? Titignan natin. If we try to contrast yung national security at human security, ito po 'yon. May tatlo po tayong katanungan diyan. Unang katanungan ay, kaninong security ba ang tinutukoy natin? Sa national security, ito yung ang security natin, sinisecuritize natin ay yung nation and state. Whereas sa human security, hindi lang yung nation or state, pati na rin yung individual at communities. Kaya nga sa human security, yung mga subfields ng human security ay yung personal security at community security. Pangalawang katanungan ay, ano ba yung goal natin? So sa national security, ang goal niyan ay pangalagaan yung state interests, no? But in human security, hindi lang state interest yung pinapangalagaan natin, but also yung safety ng individuals at communities. At dito papasok yung human rights, no? And then yung pangatlo na katanungan natin ay sino-sino ba yung involved sa national security? So sa national security, yung primary actors dito ay yung mga military or police enforcers. Whereas sa human security, maraming stakeholders yan, hindi lang yung government but also yung civil societies. So kung i-assess mo, yung current bill at yung current law natin on terrorism, pasok ba siya dun sa human security? No? So yun yung katanungan. So ano ba yung mali or what's wrong with the current proposed bill? Apart from dun sa goal na banggit ko kanina, ay yung wrong strategic communication. May prioritization amidst the pandemic. Okay, maraming experts na nagsasabi na in other countries, tinitake advantage ng mga terrorist groups yung pandemic to advance their cause. Yes, that's true. But then again, since hindi naman, well, kasama sa priority natin yon, but since may current law naman tayo ngayon, why not enforce it ngayon? Tsaka na lang natin isipin yung, or yung i-prioritize yung pagpapasa ng bill. Pangalawang problem is yung passed in the Congress without scrutiny or proper deliberation. Imagine yung bill ay dineliberate lang in 4 hours. And that's very shocking kasi, 'di ba, maraming nagsasabi na mga lawmakers na they have reservations but they voted yes. Kung may reservation ka, bakit ka bumoto ng oo, 'di ba? So why not deliberate that para ma-address yung mga loopholes? Yung pangatlong problem is ni-remove yung HSA yan. Ni-remove yung Section 50 ng Anti-Terrorism Act of 2007. So ano 'yon? Ito yung damages na ini-incur kapag mali yung arrest. So kung necessary siya, ano yung guarantee natin na walang violations? No, in our history and even in recent events, maraming nakukulong without due process at walang proper, alam mo yun, what they call this, walang clear na violations, no? And then yung pang-apat na problem sa current bill ay walang provision that requires law enforcers to undergo training. At ito yung magiging safeguard natin. Sasabihin nila, kasama na po yan dun sa IRR or dun sa mandate ng ATC, but we need this provision para ma-secure tayo na before nila i-enforce yung law, dapat alam nila yung law. Hindi natin ma-assure na alam agad-agad ng law enforcers yan yung anti-terrorism. When yung recent events nga lang na hindi sila may kapwa nila security officers ay napatay. So ano yung guarantee na walang ganun na mangyayari sa mga civilians, no? And then yung pinaka-last na problem ay yung public trust. So one aspect sa paggagawa ng policy is you have to listen to the public. So kapag kung walang tiwala ang public sa batas, ibig sabihin may problema nga. Pangalawa, yung history nga natin ng paano ginagamit yung law against the opponents. Yun yung main concern natin, no? So, ngayon na-identify na natin kung ano yung mga problems, ano yung definitions at bakit importante yung definitions. So, ano yung mga alternative approach natin? Since nasa pandemic tayo at I guess mas priority ngayon ang pag-address ng mga current problems natin, ang kailangan muna natin para what I call this, para hindi ma-take advantage ng mga terrorists yung pandemic is yung strict implementation of the current law, especially yung functions ng council. So nakikita niyo po dyan, yung paragraph 2, 1, 2, 4, at 7, ito yung mga mandates ng council para gumawa, no? Formulate and adopt plans, programs, countermeasures against terrorists and acts of terrorism in the country. So ngayon, ano-ano ba yung mga current na strategies? Dapat i-implement natin yon, no? since meron naman tayong ganon. Pangalawa, yung coordination. Meron ba tayong proper coordination? And then pangatlo, establish and maintain comprehensive database information system. Meron ba tayo nito? Kung meron man, is it comprehensive? No? And then yung last is yung establish and maintain coordination. Dapat hindi lang within the security but also with the people, no? Kasi the public is a great source of human intelligence gathering. Apart from this is yung pag-revise ng current bill. Maraming loopholes sa bills at na-discuss na yan earlier. So, dapat kung may need para magkaroon ng bagong bill, dapat i-revise yung bill at i-address yung mga loopholes. Maraming mga legal experts na nagsasabi na unconstitutional yung bill. Then, kung unconstitutional, then i-junk siya and then mag-create ng another bill. Maybe we can adopt and then tanggalin yung mga vague provisions. And then pangalawa is you target the root cause. Sa current bill, parang, okay, disengagement ang ginagawa. We arrest, we kill terrorists. Pero we can kill as many as terrorists. Pero andyan pa rin yung terrorism problem. Kapag hindi na-address yung root cause ng problem, then wala din. Magpo-prolong pa rin yung terrorism problem. Pangatlo is yung i-improve yung communication through supporting, facilitating, and resourcing to NGO and CSOs. Unfortunately, yung reality is halos lahat ng governments ay mababa yung credibility. So para ma-improve yung communication, dapat makipag-coordinate or suportahan yung ng government, yung mga NGOs or civil societies when it comes to counter-terrorism strategies. Yung pang-apat is we have to enhance community building by empowering people to become proactive and critical consumers of information communities. So dito papasok yung counter-radicalization. So hindi ba kapag may community building, hindi basta-bastang ma-recruit yung isang vulnerable person. Kapag may enhanced community building, mas madali yung information database system. So as mentioned earlier, yung community is a great source of human intelligence gathering. And then yung panglima is we have to integrate intercultural competence. Yung terrorism problem dito sa Pilipinas ay hindi lang siya socio-political or economic. May cultural aspect yon. So pasukan natin ng intercultural competence para naman magkaroon tayo ng dialogues, no, intra and inter-community dialogues. Apart from that, sa isang PCVE recommendation, sinasabi dyan na ang nire-recommend talaga is yung micro level, ibig sabihin targeted. Bottom up, ibig sabihin yung mga recommendations dapat yung government nakikinig sa baba, sa grassroots. Kasi usually yung sa policy making laging top down, no, gagawa sa taas tapos kayo na bahala diyan sa baba na mag-implement. Ngayon dapat makinig kasi yung grassroots sila yung may sense of reality, no. And then yung pangatlo is dapat long term, hindi lang tayo yung short term solutions, hindi yung band-aid solutions kasi ganun ang nangyayari sa atin na okay, temporarily tatakpan yung sugat tapos pag natanggal ulit yon, babalik ulit. And sa part of the long term approach is yung proper education, no. Ito yon, yung ang recommendation is to institutionalize peace education, no. Sa Pilipinas may peace education initiatives in mga universities. But the problem is either minor lang siya or an elective courses. Ang kailangan natin ay magkaroon ng institutionalization ng peace education para magkaroon tayo or ma-professionalize yung peace educators, no? Apart from these alternative approaches, magdedepende rin yung approach natin kung ano-ano ba yung focus. So, yung focus natin ay nakadepende sa iba-ibang persons, no. Una is yung detainees. Kapag detainees ang fino-focus natin, dapat i-rehabilitate lang natin. Hindi lang sapat na ikukulong sila, dapat i-reintegrate natin sila sa society. At yung objective natin dyan ay i-reduce yung threat kasi sila naman talaga yung threat. Pangalawa, kapag yung focus naman natin ay vulnerable persons, dapat engagement, community engagement para hindi na sila mag-lead into extremist behavior. At kapag yung focus naman natin ay clergy, dapat i-highlight natin yung religion's emphasis on peace, no? Para magkaroon tayo ng counter narratives, yung counter radicalization na nangyayari. At kapag society at large, yung strategy natin ay winning the hearts and minds of the society, at gagawin lang natin yun kapag nakikinig yung government dun sa society. So, yan para ma-neutralize yung security threat. So, marami pang alternative approaches na pwede nating maisip. Pero nakadepende yan so kung paano natin i-define yung terminologies. So I guess yun lang po yung presentation ko po. Thank you po.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Likayan. So that ends the presentation of the three panelists. For this part of our program, we will be entertaining the questions that were sent initially when you registered, and the second part naman, the questions that were posted here in the chat box. So let me just read the first question. I think either Commissioner or Attorney Mel can answer this one. This came from Professor Agnes. Hi, sir. In the manner of making a bill into a law, if the President will not communicate his decision to the members of the Congress in 30 days, the bill becomes a law. The question is, are there other legal strategies available in order to counter this strategy of the defenders of the bill?
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Apo.
Of course, if the president will allow this to expire and become a law, then our next alternative, our next remedy is to go to the Supreme Court, wherein we will question the constitutionality of the law. Because at the moment, I think going through the your congressman is no longer viable as a remedy for them to stall the subsequent enactment of the law. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, there's a follow-up question because they were asking, I'm pretty sure there were consultations with the commission on passage of this bill, but was it something that is really exhaustive, or was it something that is really particularly lengthy and discussed properly during the consultation?
Actually, the consultation was just, I think, it was part of the lawmaking process wherein they have to hear us. And of course, we submitted our position paper. But the question on whether they will listen to our suggestion is another matter. The consultation is just part of the lawmaking process so that they can show to the people that we follow the proper procedure. But on whether they listen to us, it's another matter.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner. The next question is addressed to Dean Mel. Dean, the question is the bill really needed given that we already have the Human Security Act of 2007? And where are we right now considering the existence of the Human Security Act of 2007?
Well, the bill is not needed, definitely. As a matter of fact, I don't even think that the Human Security Act is also needed. So where are we now? We are in a very precarious situation because, as you said, on July 9 will be the last day. If the president does not do anything, July 10, the law will be a law, and after the publication of 15 days, it will be effective. So ignorance of the law excuses no one, so we will be all under that law. As Commissioner Leah said, the next move is to file a petition with the Supreme Court under the extraordinary powers of the Supreme Court under the Constitution. Immediately. As a matter of fact, I can tell you now, there are a lot of groups already preparing a draft, even if the president has not yet signed it. I am in constant touch with them, and even a group of FEU law professors, as a matter of fact, have completed a draft petition. We are just trying to look at it and trying to improve it. But the thing is here, when you file a case with the Supreme Court, immediately there will be no immediate injured party.
Yeah.
So you call that attack as a facial attack on the law itself. And when you say facial attack on the law itself, you must connect that with freedom of speech and freedom of expression. And so that is why a number of petitions now probably will be leaning on the infringement of freedom of speech and freedom of expression, and then segue to the other important points which Commissioner Lea has just stressed a while ago. So, nandiyan tayo
Mhm.
ngayon.
Thank you very much, Dean. For Professor Likayan, sir, currently, where is the Philippines in its fight against terrorism if we will be compared to other Southeast Asian countries?
Um, Currently po, yung fight naman natin sa terrorism ay may coordination tayo with the regional, no. Kasi may linkages yung mga terrorist groups natin dito sa international, may transnational element dun sa atin. So currently we're coordinating with Singapore, and even yung mga Middle East countries and Indonesia at Malaysia para sa pag-safeguard ng acts natin. And uh, I'm not sure kung napalabas na ba pero or na-publish na, pero may dinevelop po na national action plan on preventing and countering violent extremism. So nandun yan. In fact, one of the in 2018 naging part ako ng workshop where kinonsult kami ng AFP doon sa mga projects nila. So nagkaroon yan yung mga e-clip, yung anong gagawin kapag may rehabilitate, kapag may nadakip, no. But yung pinaka main problem natin ngayon is paano ba natin i-rehabilitate yung mga nakulong ng mga terrorists, kasi sinasabi nila that's the radicalization program, pero kapag titignan mo yung element ng program nila ay hindi naman talaga the radicalization. Ang nangyayari ay engagement lang. I'm not sure if pwede ko bang isabihin, pero during our terrorism class we were able to interview a former Filipino terrorist at yun yung problem niya kasi na-de-radicalize na siya, pero ang problem niya is ano yung program ng government para ma-ensure na hindi na siya babalik sa terrorist acts. Yun yung pinaka-problem kasi okay, pag mag-a-apply siya at malalaman na former terrorist, may tagging na nangyayari. So parang din siya yung mga criminals na or may ex-con, ganito, ganyan. So yun yung pinaka-problem talaga natin. Ano ba yung measures ng government para ma-ensure na okay, ma-integrate sila sa normal society at hindi na sila babalik. So yun yung mga problems siguro na dapat i-address sa current programs.
Yes, thank you, sir. I think any one of our panelists can give a reaction regarding this commentary. They said that fear of the abuse is not a valid reason to junk this anti-terror bill. Any one of you would like to comment on this one?
Ako, I'd like to comment on that.
Yes, Dean.
Okay. Let us remember, baseless apprehension and baseless charges are real. Totoo ito. 34 people, including the vice president, number of bishops, and a number of priests and ordinary people were charged of sedition, citing to sedition, cyber libel, committing to the, in short, isa yon. And anong ultimately lumabas nun? About 30. No probable cause. No probable cause. Absuelto, and yet finaila ng CIDG ng government. It is real. Second, sa Iloilo, may dinakip, kawawa naman, mistake of identity, akala NPA commander. Real. The reality of baseless charges and baseless apprehension is occurring. So hindi ko makita kung saan hinuhugot ng mga taong yan ang mga salitang hindi dapat matakot. Ang problema, hindi tayo. Tayo siguro hindi tayo takot. Yeah. Ang problema, yung mga taong mag-iimplementa ng batas. Sila ang nakakatakot. Because if the threshold for apprehension is suspicion at napakalinaw sa batas, at ang mga probisyon ng ano ang mga opensa ay napakalabo, pagsamahin mo yan, ang laki ng damage yan. Ibig sabihin, anything goes.
Yes.
Depende sa kanila. So iyan ang masasabi ko dyan. Thank you.
Thank you din, Mel.
Sino ba
Commissioner,
nagsabi
would you like
nun?
it was a commentary. Actually, 'di ba din marami ring mga representatives na eto rin yung sinasabi nila na if you are a law-abiding citizen then you have nothing to fear. Would you like to react on that, Commissioner?
Oh yes, yes. Kung wala kang tinatago, wala kang kakatakutan. Ano mo basic error ng premise na 'yon? Di lahat ng takot may tinatago and therefore terorista silang lahat. Which is wild. Di ba? And number two, we have the presumption of innocence in the Constitution. Diyan lang ang batayan natin. Diyan tayo parati bumabalik. And number three, ang sinabi ko nga kanina, maaring tayo hindi takot kasi wala naman tayong tinatago. Ang nakakatakot yung mag-iimplementa ng batas. Yan ang sagot ko dyan. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Commissioner, would you like to add on that?
I agree with the statement ni Dean Mel. Actually, magkakaroon ng fiesta dito ay mga fascist, mga law enforcers natin, yung security sector natin. Let us put it in a practical situation. Ito, kunyari, isang estudyante, nakikinig sa rally, biglang may pumutok sa rally na yon, nakikinig lang siya, nandun siya. So he can be like, pwede siyang pick upin dahil nandun siya sa rally, participant siya, and there was like death that occurred in that rally. So ganun lang kasimple, huhulihin ka. Pag nahuli ka ba, sa tingin mo papakawalan ka? Baka hindi na. 14 days, ipukulong ka. Sa loob ng 14 days, pwede kang i-torture. Sa loob ng 14 days, ilalagay ka sa kulungan na masikip. Iisipin mo yon. Tapos dadagdagan pa nila ng another 10 days. So naging 24 days. Sa tingin mo, after 24 days, makakalabas ka? Pa-filean ka ngayon ng kaso ng violation of the Anti-Terrorism Act. O, non-bailable yon. O, so magra-rat ka sa jail habang nagkakaroon ka ng trial. At ang obligasyon lang ng isang nag-aresto sa'yo, pupunta lang siya sa court at saka sa CHR para sabihin na hinuli ko si Lea Armamento. Okay naman siya. Yun lang. Ganun kagrabe. Kaya, oo, tama yung sabi ni Dean Mel, baka hindi tayo matatakot dahil tayo educated tayo. Maawa ka sa mga mahihirap na nandoon sa squatters, mga magsasaka natin na walang kaalam-alam sa kabundukan at sabihin, nagre-rebelde na sila at sila ay kasama ng mga terorista. Kapag ang NPA ay ma-proscribe na terrorist organization. Ganon. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. The next question is for Professor Likayan. Sir, what do you think is the root cause of terrorism in the Philippine context? Because as you've mentioned a while ago, per country medyo different ang approach and different ang root cause niyan. In the Philippine context, what is the root cause of terrorism?
Okay, when we discuss yung root cause ng terrorism, may tinatawag tayong push and pull factors. So ano yung mga push factors? Ito yung lack of socio-economic opportunities, marginalization, discrimination, poor governance, violation of human rights, and rule of law. So in the Philippines, meron tayo doon lack of socio-economic, especially in the southern part, no? Kung makikita mo yung areas na yun kung saan terrorist infested yung terrorist infested yung area na yun, ay sila din yung isa sa mga pinakamahihirap na mga lugar sa Pilipinas. May tinatawag din tayong violation of human rights, no? Poor governance, no? Yung other factor naman is yung pull factor. So ito naman yung individual backgrounds and motivation. So ito yung collective grievances, victimization. So 'di ba sa yung usual na narrative nila ay lagi na lang kaming biktima ng kahirapan or lagi kami ang minority. So yung mga oppression, so yun yung mga pull factors. Dati political yung pull factors natin. But right now, with the advent of religious terrorism, pumapasok na din yung IS ideology, no? Yung yung religion, no? So yun yung mga sa Philippines, uh, usual na sinasabi ay poor governance, etc. etc. Yun yung usual na nakikita na findings. Pero in recent research, may nagsasabi na ang primary factor kung bakit nare-recruit as a terrorist yung isang individual, it's because of social network. So ibig sabihin kung yung family niya ay isang terrorist, mas malaki yung chance na mare-recruit siya. So siguro titingnan din natin yung social and psychological factors uh, apart from the socio-economic kasi marami namang efforts yung government to address yung socio-economic problems, pero siguro titingnan din natin yung individual, no, yung individual level, hindi lang doon sa community and national level. So yun po yung mga root cause na dapat titignan.
Hello, ayan. I
Yes,
think
po.
one of the students has a question. This is for Commissioner Leia and for Dean Mel. What do you think is the impact if this will push through as a law? What will be the impact to journalism or to media in general, considering the limitations that they have to recalibrate some of their operations within the limitations being provided by the anti-terror bill?
Dinmel, with due respect, mauna na ako. I think this will like curtail our freedom of expression. The journalists magiging sanitize ang kanilang reporting because there will always be fear that they will be suspect of being the committing terrorist acts. At sabi nga kanina ni Dean Mel sa kanyang presentation is magkakaroon ka ngayon ng self-restraint. Nag-iingat ka na hindi mo sasabihin yung katotohanan. It is like reminiscent of martial law na ang newspaper lang noon, bulletin, Manila Bulletin, which is more on kung ano yung mga available na work, rentals, mga ganyan. And then yung daily, tapos may isa pa yung owned by meron pa isa noon na newspaper na it is like a propaganda in the government. It does not really report what is the reality on the ground. So, ang ating ang mangyayari, hindi informed yung mga tao dahil ang ating journalist ay sanitized masyado. Thank you.
Dean Mel, would you like to add on that?
No more addition. That's perfect. Yes, that will be the effect. Okay, si
Okay.
Commissioner Leia, that's it. That's it.
Okay. Anyone can answer this question. The question is, what are the possible implications of the anti-terror bill in the lives of post-Marawi siege citizens and the people from Mindanao who are always devastated by terroristic act and aggression?
Okay,
Dean Mel, would you like to start, or Commissioner?
Okay. Okay, I will start. Because I had a meeting with some of the lawyers from Mindanao. They fear for this because meron kasi tayong tinatawag na profiling. Para bang pag Muslim yan, extremist yan. Kapag Muslim yan, terrorist yan. Yun ang mga kinakatakot nila that this will happen. Because like, dito, yung like sa siege, yung sa Marawi, although we identified those na actively participated, pero ang question, who allowed them to be in that place? So that is one of the terrorist acts enumerated. You give support. So like, saang bahay sila tumira? So these people, the residents of Marawi can be suspect. So napakadelikado sa mga tao sa Marawi at sa buong Mindanao, lalo na po sa mga kapatid natin na Muslim. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Professor Dean, would you like to give your insight?
I agree with Commissioner na malaking implications niya, lalo na sa mga Muslim brothers and sisters natin. What I call this, hindi man natin directly inaamin, pero yung Islamophobia is very evident sa society natin. At yung yung provision na anyone can be a target sa or tagged as terrorist ay mas malaki yung implications niya dun sa mga Muslim brothers and sisters natin. In other countries, malaki yung problem niyan kasi when it comes to immigration, yung iba ang haba ng interrogation nila bago makalagpas dun sa immigration just by wearing hijab, and that's very problematic, no? So kung ganun pala, parang sinasabi natin na don't wear hijab, no? Kasi para hindi kayo ma-tag as terrorist. Pangalawa po, another concern is dapat makinig tayo sa ano natin, sa mga grassroots. Kung sila mismo ay yung mas nakakabahala, ibig sabihin may implication talaga may direct implication talaga sa lives nila. Uh, uh, yung violent extremism, hindi lang siya yung Islamist extremism, may maraming mga klase ng extremism. May tinatawag tayong single-based extremism. Ito yung mga groups na, say for example, extreme environmentalist groups na pumapatay sila para lang to protect the environment. That's that's a category of violent extremism. But also yung mga far left at far right, say for example yung mga white supremacists, they're also violent extremists. So hindi lang dapat na tinitingnan na porque Muslim ka, you're vulnerable to extremism. Anyone can be vulnerable. So malaki yung implications niya, lalong-lalo na dun sa mga minorities natin po.
Okay, thank you. For Dean Mel, are there safeguards for wrongfully detained individuals under the anti-terror bill?
Well, nawala dyan yung multa. Nawala dyan yung multa ng mga taong mali ang pagdadakip sa mga tao. Kasi nung una, kung hindi ako nagkakamali, yung may multa na 500,000 a day, something like that,
Yes.
doon sa mga taong manghuhuli at lumitaw na mali ang paghuli nila. O tanggal na yan. Ngayon, yun lang. Yung puntong lang yon talagang kasi ang sabi nila ganito. Kasi nandoon yung multang yon, tuloy hindi makapag-act ang mga law enforcer. Kasi nandoon yung multang yon, medyo napipigilan sila. Kaya lang ang problema, basta tinanggal mo naman yung multang yon, baka mag-overact naman. Yun ang problema doon. Overact. Kasi nga ang level under the new law, Section 29, isuspetsa lamang. Suspetsa, at ang suspetsa, ibang-iba sa napatunayan. Napakadaling ilagay, proven to have committed sa legislation. Kaya lang bakit hindi nila ginawa ito? At hindi lang isang beses nila sinabi ang suspected, mga 2 o 3 beses. Minsan magkasama pa yung charged with or suspected. So alam natin na 2 talaga ang pwedeng mangyari dito. Either i-charge ka o nasuspetsahan ka lang. Ang nakakatakot, yung pangalawa. Kaya iyan dapat ang tinitingnan natin. Kasi nagsisimula dapat lahat tayo sa mga kataga ng batas. Pagkatapos ng tignan natin ang kataga ng batas, titignan natin ang konteksto ng batas para makita ang spirit of the law. Pero kung malinaw ang kataga ng batas, you don't need any interpretation. At isa sa malinaw dyan, taking custody on the basis of suspicion. Napakalinaw. Di ba? Tapos, ito yung parati kong inuulit. Ipapaling mo yan doon sa napakalabo ng mga opensa. Free for all na talaga yan. Free for all talaga yan. Ano ba yung sabi ni Commissioner Lea? Magpepiesta dito. Magpepiesta talaga dito. So, yan lang.
Thank you very much, Dean. Commissioner, another question for you. I think we can still entertain 5 more questions before we can end the program. Commissioner, can you suggest of a country with a strong anti-terrorism law that we can pattern what we have right now? Or can you suggest of a model country perhaps?
We cannot pattern our laws to other countries because we have the different constitution. Like yung sinasabi nila, ganito naman sa UK, may mga sinasabi sila sa Singapore, sa Malaysia, pero titingnan mo kasi yung constitution natin. Ang constitution natin nagsasabi na the longest period that you can be detained is 3 days. That is kung suspended ang writ of habeas corpus, ha? Pero kung hindi, you have, under our revised penal code, you have to be presented not more than 36 hours of detention. So, hindi natin pwedeng i-pattern sa ibang bansa. Otherwise, we have to amend our constitution to accommodate this kind of law na napakadelikado. So, let's make our own laws. Nasabi nga ni Professor, ang batas natin will address the root causes nga, hindi lang yung carrot and stick. There are soft approaches. So dapat i-tailor fit natin sa ating culture. Yun ang advice sa atin ni Professor. Hindi tayo susunod sa ibang bansa. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, Sir Likayan.
If I may add po, wala naman talaga tayong makakategorize as model country when it comes to having this PCVE or anti-terrorism measures or yung law kasi as mentioned ni Commissioner kanina, nakadepende po talaga yun sa context ng problem. So, say for example, bakit sa Singapore, bakit ganito, ganyan? Kasi ganun yung situation nila. Ito yung problem ng terrorism nila, transnational. Yung sa atin po dito, apart from transnational yung aspect ng problem sa Pilipinas, meron din tayong domestic problems. So, yun po yung titignan natin. Hindi lang basta-basta. So, we can combine military and soft approach. Pwede yan. Hindi naman siya sasabihin, dapat harder approach lang o soft approach lang. We can combine. Pero we need a further study kung ano ba talaga yung pinaka-problem. No? Maraming nagsasabi na, okay, socio-economic yung problem sa Pilipinas. Pero kasi yung mga nag-aaral nun ay mga foreign scholars. So hindi nila alam yung cultural aspect ng bansa natin. Pero kapag marami ang mga nagre-research on terrorism dito sa Pilipinas, siguro mas mapapalawak yung intindi natin kung ano ba talaga yung nature ng terrorism sa Pilipinas. So, intercultural ba siya? Societal ba siya? O may aspect ba dito yung coloniality na tinatawag? So, yun yung dapat tignan natin. So, but we can always adapt good practices ng ibang countries. No? Say for example, not being biased, pero sa Singapore, they really promote yung preventive, yung counter-radicalization. So say for example, nakikita nila na yung mga vulnerable persons ay mga youth. They engage yung youth dun sa society. Say for example, in weekends, meron silang, they promote sports o yung mga other extracurricular activities. So baka pwede nating i-adapt yun. At kapag military naman siguro, maybe we can enhance yung intelligence. With regard to sa previous na question kanina, kung ang kinakababahala ng mga military officers natin ay or yung law enforcers natin ay baka mali yung pagkulong ng isang individual, I think the very solution for that is enhance yung intelligence gathering. And ang sinabi ko nga kanina, kapag may trust yung public, mas sila yung magpa-participate rather than tatakutin mo sila, mas willing sila, no? Apart from that, maybe siguro kung nagamit ng maayos yung Intel Fund, maybe we can enhance yung comprehensive, yung mandate doon na comprehensive database information. So kung nagamit ng maayos yung Intel Fund, maybe walang problem sa intelligence gathering. So sure sila kung sino yung ikukulong, hindi lang by mere suspicion. So kung dapat yung siguro yung titignan natin, no, yung problema, hindi yun yung nakikitang problem na itong provision na to ay ang siguro yung nagre-restrict para ano yung potential natin. Siguro hindi yun yung problem. Yung problem natin doon ay hindi substantive yung intelligence gathering natin. So dapat yun yung targeted ng law enforcers natin. So yun.
Okay, thank you, sir. The next question is for Dean Mel. Sir, legally speaking, if you are not for the enactment of the anti-terror bill, how do you suggest can the Philippines properly address the problem of terrorism, legally speaking?
Legally speaking, we have the revised penal code, and I firmly believe that it is enough. Okay? And meron naman tayong diyang coup d'etat provision. Meron naman tayong diyan na rebellion, meron naman tayong diyang treason, meron naman tayong diyang sedition, ano. So I think that's the best way. And number two, of course, we have to train our PNP and police and the military very well, diba? Very well. Steeped in the Constitution, steeped in law enforcement. As a matter of fact, it's just a case of proper law enforcement. I believe that to be the case. Yan ang aking pananaw. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dean. I think that wraps up the session for today. Thank you very much. Any last words from the members of the panel? Let me start with Professor Likayan.
Last words. I think ang may ipapayo ko lang is maging critical tayo at hindi lang tayo dapat take in ng information na hindi research based kasi yun yung problem natin ngayon, yung proliferation ng fake news, no. So yun, dapat maging critically engaged tayo at maging proactive din tayo sa mga measures natin. At kung may nakita tayong kamalian, let us speak, no. Hindi lang para sa sarili natin pero para din sa iba.
Thank you very much, Sir. Dean Mel Santa Maria.
Wala na siguro ako madadagdag except that tama si Professor, we have to voice out our opinion freely, liberally, and without inhibition. At kung tutol tayo dito sa anti-terrorism bill nito, ihayag natin. Hindi naman ibig sabihin ng paghahayag gusto nating pabagsakin ng gobyerno. Ang paghahayag natin ay para lang mapuno kung may pagkukulang, di ba? To take a second look at all these things because there is wisdom. There is wisdom in the anti-terrorism bill. No doubt about it. But ang uumpisan kasi tayo, magmumula tayo kung ano ang nililigay sa batas. Kung ang butas ay nilalagay sa panganib ang mga ordinaryong tao, hindi maganda yon. Dapat nating tingnan at ayusin ng maigi. Yan lang po.
Thank you very much, Dean. Commissioner Leia Armamento.
Of course, I join the statement of Professor Likayan and Dean Mel that we have to speak up. We have to be advocate of human rights because hindi yan para sa ibang tao, kundi para sa sarili natin at para sa pamilya natin. Use every means of communication to reach out, to inform the powers that be. Ayaw natin ng anti-terror bill as it is being asked to the President to sign it. Let's speak and protect ourselves from this evil. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sirs and ma'am. So for this part of our program, I will be reverting you back to Sir Eric. Sir Eric?
Hi, ma'am. Good afternoon. Yes. So thank you very much to our speakers, Commissioner Armamento, Dean Santa Maria, and Professor Likayan, for sharing us all the things that we have to know about the bill and other approaches that needs to be considered. And to our moderator, Ma'am Bucato, for being the representative of our participants in this discussion. Now, we just have just a few reminders and announcements. So please click the link that I just sent in our chat box for the evaluation form, of course, for the attendees to answer, for us to know more of your comments, your suggestions, and recommendations to improve our future webinar sessions, as well as other queries and questions you might want to ask to the organizers and most especially to our speakers. And for those who are asking if there will be a replay of the session, don't worry, we will post the recorded copy of this webinar session in the official Facebook page of Far Eastern University and FEU Alumni Relations Office. Now, another announcement. I know that you are still at awe of the discussion, but we would like to invite everyone to join us in the next installment of our webinar session entitled, Where Does the COVID-19 Budget Go? So this is an initiative of a group of young professionals, the hashtag COVID-19PH Citizens Budget Tracker, and of course, one of the heads of the said organization or group is a graduate of FEU. Now, the session will be on July 7, 2020, Tuesday. So that will be Tuesday next week, of course, through Microsoft Teams. Now, to register, you may visit the official Facebook pages of Far Eastern University and, of course, our official Facebook page, the FEU Alumni Relations Office. Now, on behalf of our office, we would like to thank you all so much for attending this webinar session. We wish for everyone's safety, especially now in this time of pandemic.